So we're back with video 2. As you can see here, we have the same document. We haven't added anything to it. This is exactly the same as we've left it in the last video, and we're doing that just to show you that this is the process. We aren't adding anything off camera. This is the complete process as I like to do it. And you might be surprised that there hasn't been any AI up until now, but we'll get to that. Really, we're just completing the outline here and adding as much information as we can. We're taking this out to about 10 pages. After the first video, we had 4 pages finished. At the end of this video, we'll have that expanded out to about 10 pages. You may be surprised, or maybe you won't be surprised. This supplementary writing session that we're looking at right here is the result of me going for a walk and thinking about the story. And really, all I did was, as I said in the first video, go for a walk, clear my head, and think about what I wanted to add. And there were quite a few things. There are a few scenes that I had play out in my head. I saw how they wanted to go, specific scenes, things from the beginning of the film, things from probably towards the end, maybe the middle, things that do fit in with the story that we have already written. But there are things that also explain motivations and characters, some more specifics about the story, and, some more exposition. So anyway, those things help because they help actually write the rest of the story and help me fill out things like character names, character descriptions, even what other characters are going to be in the story. Because if I start thinking about specific scenes and how they play out, then of course they're going to require certain characters, secondary characters, and we just add those people to the cast. So in addition to the extra scenes and the exposition, I'm writing more detail about the plot, more things that are going to explain the beginning, middle, the end, more things that are a bit more specific to the beats that were explained in the last video, filling out the various elements of the story structure some more. So you've probably noticed that the narration here isn't live. I'm not talking along with the video recording while I'm writing. That would be too insane. Because obviously you have to focus on writing while you're writing, and this narration is done after the fact. I'm laying this down after the writing has already been finished. The narration is edited, but it isn't scripted. And the reason this entire course isn't scripted is just because I wanted to keep it loose, and I wanted to keep it more natural and spontaneous. Again, it's not really a how-to course so much as it's really me documenting my creative style and how I make an anime film. And again, there are a lot of different ways of doing this. There are probably more efficient ways. There are definitely a lot less efficient ways. But I just wanted to document my style and show how I do it. That's part of the challenge too, is documenting anything you do and not having it change what you do. And I'll tell you what, it's really been a task, and it really is kind of hard because even just documenting this is definitely changing how I'm making a movie. I've made several feature-length anime movies before this, and each one actually followed a completely different process. And without a doubt, me documenting the process of making this film is absolutely altering the process of making the film itself. And I'm trying not to let it affect it too much, but it definitely is. Even this early into the process, even this early into the production, it's absolutely changing just the way I'm writing the movie. And probably for good and for bad, I mean, focusing on how you do it probably makes you... It probably makes you do it a little bit better, but it also maybe makes it a little bit less free-flowing. It probably affects your creativity a little bit. And for me, it just affects the way I'm doing it because I really don't approach things like making a movie with a strict, by-the-book, step-by-step way of doing it, Which is why it's kind of interesting for me to even document this in the first place and try to make a step-by-step method out of it, because there really isn't one. We'll get there, for sure, but it will be a journey. So this is quite a bit more than we started with. We started with 4 pages. That's what we finished with in the last video. And this is now, at the end of this video, we will have 10 pages of writing for this movie, for the outline. And 10 pages is a pretty good start. It's pretty good. That's a pretty good amount of information to feed the AI. And what we're doing here is obviously fleshing out the outline, filling it out. We are adding more scenes, we are adding more exposition, we are adding more character descriptions. Yes, I went for a walk and created all of this in my mind, but this is also the result of knowing mythology, reading books, knowing about history and geology and fringe astrological theories and fringe historical theories, and having all of this information in the back of your mind to pull from and interpolate into new and interesting stories. At least have a basis in mythology. That's really where a lot of comic books and stories like that come from, so it's not a bad thing to have. If you're wondering how I'm writing all of this seemingly with ease, that's why. So, armed with that knowledge, you really want to create your own characters and create your own IP and create your own reasons for them doing things. If you read some of what I'm writing here, you'll see that this is what I call an Eastern style story, in that it's not the typical hero's journey. In fact, there really isn't a hero's journey, it's more of a reactionary story. This takes its cues from Buddhist culture, in fact, and a lot of stories in Asia and in the East kind of follow this trajectory. This is actually an alternative story structure that I didn't list in the first video, but it is one. It's about your main character, you take your protagonist, and the story is kind of just them reacting to things. Things happen, they go along their path, things happen to them, they react, good or bad, and that's kind of just how the story develops. Ultimately, you can have a good ending or a bad ending, but you can keep your stakes high or low, and you can keep your story flowing just sort of by, your character going through, like, I don't know, Alice in Wonderland is kind of an example of that in Western literature. It's like she's just going through the looking glass and then just one thing after another. So, like, it's pretty basic. It's not the most sophisticated storytelling technique, but it is one. So, like I was saying, 10 pages is a good amount of information to feed an AI. And by an AI, I mean an LLM. So, we're talking about probably Anthropic, Claude Opus, maybe Google, AI Studio, Gemini, even ChatGPT. But you're going to be using a high end LLM and feeding it your story. My favorite platform is Pseudowrite. That's what we'll be using a little bit later. So as silly as it is, we're still going with the me typing to the camera technique here. And I know it's ridiculous, but it really is just to show you that we haven't used AI up until this point, and this is actually me writing the story. So I know I'm not trying to show off or anything like that. It's ridiculous, but I'm sure that people are going to say that we did these entire pages with AI if we don't show that we are, in fact, typing the entire thing ourselves. And again, that's why I showed in the beginning of this video that this entire document is exactly as we left it at the end of the last video. Nothing has been added to it. All of these additions are being made on camera. And like I said, that's really just to keep it on the up and up and to show you that my process is what it is. Personally, it doesn't really matter. Normally, if I was making a movie, I wouldn't care. I'm not trying to show my process to anyone or document it. But for this project, I am. That's the weird thing. It's totally antithetical to what I normally do or what I normally care about. But because I have committed to documenting this film, I'm committed to documenting it. So here I am doing that. And as I was saying earlier, it is making the entire process a little bit more difficult and a little bit more, I don't know, time consuming, data consuming, more room on the hard drive because I have to make these videos and film it and all of that. But hey, whatever. I mean, it's more interesting for you guys to be able to see the process, right? So here it is. Now, I know it's going kind of fast. It's going in double speed here, but you might notice that with the dialogue scenes, I'm actually just writing the dialogue out in sentences and then I'm assigning the names to the dialogue afterwards. And that's because the way I do dialogue is I'm kind of just cutting out a lot of steps by just writing out the dialogue in my head as I hear it, and then I'm just putting the character name afterwards. It's a lot easier that way. It's easier than typing out the script formally, going character name, return, writing the dialogue, return, caps lock, hitting the character name again. You know, that takes a lot of time. It's a lot quicker to just write the actual dialogue in sentences. If you have it in your head and you know what it is, then you can just assign the name afterwards. A lot of this, like that shortcut there, is I'm just trying to make it as efficient as possible. So this writing session is actually a bit longer than the first one. The first session is about 46 or 47 minutes of me writing, and in double time, I was able to turn that into a 22-minute video, 22 to 23-minute video. This video is going to be in the neighborhood of 30 minutes because the writing session is literally like an hour. So with that long of a session, I guess it makes sense that we finish with 10 pages. An hour and 47 minutes of writing, 10 pages. That's about right. That's not too bad. And I do get it. Those aren't 10 full pages. It's not the same as writing 10 pages of a novel because, there are scenes. I am writing scenes here which are double spaced or whatever, and the dialogue takes up a lot more room on the page than a novel or whatnot. So I get it. The page count is a little bit different since we are doing a mix of narrative descriptions, dialogue, character dialogue. We're still brain dumping at this point. Bear with it. If you hear any engine noise in the background, airplanes, wind chimes, just bear with it because, this entire recording process is, as I said, it is what it is. For me to document all of this, to be able to narrate it and to make these videos and to have any kind of narration or explanation, I have to just do it on the fly when I can. So there's no real way to do it. I can't really plan for it like I would a normal recording or session or whatever. So there we go. If there's motorcycles in the background, that's just because we're making the movie and the production doesn't stop for anyone, and the documentation is just going to be, it is what it is, So I apologize in advance, but I don't apologize because that's kind of the price you have to pay for being able to document a production. This is playing back in double speed again, and the new annotations, the new additions are in blue type. The beauty of working with AI is that you get to cut out a lot of steps. So in traditional movie making, most of the steps you're taking are meant to communicate ideas to other people. You have to communicate ideas to other departments. Different departments have to communicate parts of the story. They have to storyboard. They have to jot down their ideas in different ways. Usually this is done with animatics, a storyboard, concept art, that kind of thing. The whole point of all of these things is just to explain ideas and to illustrate ideas to other people. So the beauty of doing it all yourself is that you don't need to do any of that because you're you and you don't need to explain anything to you if you have the vision yourself. So if your vision is completely self-contained, then you don't have to do any of that because You don't have to explain anything to anybody. With that being the case, you can just cut out a lot of these steps. I mean, you can really cut out, truthfully, you can cut out all of those things I mentioned. You can cut out animatics, you can cut out storyboards, you can cut out concept art even, because you don't have to explain anything to anybody. You are the director, you are the writer, it is your vision completely. And if you're truly working in a do it yourself environment, then you don't have to explain anything to anybody. So, to be completely efficient, just to get your animation out there as fast as possible, you can just cut all of that out. And a lot of my process, a lot of what we're going to see happening here is exactly that. It's just me. You'll see here with me writing the script. I am writing a script out, but it's going to be pretty straightforward. I'm not going to be messing with an outline. A lot of people, they do like to utilize AI to do things like rate the script, or they'll run the script through AI to analyze it, and they'll use AI to find loopholes in the script, find plot holes in other parts of the story that are weak and that need strengthening. I actually don't do any of that. I'm not saying that's a bad idea. That's actually a really good idea if you have the time and the bandwidth to do that. But for me, I kind of just do that internally. I kind of do that by just writing the script good in the first place. I don't know. And again, that's just my method. I totally applaud you if you are the kind of person who takes their script and analyzes it. Either way, whether you're doing it with beta readers or with an AI, if you are analyzing your script and strengthening it through recursive writing, writing rough drafts and second drafts and third drafts and fourth drafts, and using feedback to actually make it better, I mean, that's what people do, you know? So, I mean, of course, if you have the time, definitely do that. You're probably not going to see much of that in my method here, just because, like I said, I'm producing two feature-length films a year on average. So in order to keep up that momentum and keep up that kind of schedule, you really can't spend a lot of time doing that, to be honest. Although I do try to imply some kind of quality control, it's not at that level.